the most expensive prank ever committed to film. David Keyes at cinemaphile.org, and he is talking about the subject of the MySequel podcast this week, Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice. We tried something new this week. We actually recorded a little bit before going to see the movie in theaters together, so that'll be new. And just a note, chronologically speaking, for these MySequel podcasts, this is actually the most recent episode we recorded, but since the movie is still out in theaters, we wanted to get this one to air before a few of the other ones are out yet. So in following weeks, some of the comments we might make might be a little outdated, whereas what we're talking about this week is fairly recent. So with that in mind, please enjoy our take on Batman v Superman. And as always, make sure to subscribe, like, leave a comment, and let us know what would your sequel be. And with that, we're going to go ahead and start the show. Thanks. With Dirty Sprocket and the MySequel podcast. Tonight we've got with us Matt Pittman.
Hello.
And Jake Kiley.
Hello.
And this is our pregame for Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. We were actually about to go see this movie. We wanted to give our thoughts. Theoretically, we're supposed to meet Robert, and Robert's not here to record, so we will give him unending amounts of shit if he completely bails. I'm going to yell at him. But
since I'm always late, I'm assuming Robert is repaying the favor since we're at my house this time.
So we'll see. So hopefully Robert will be joining us after we see the movie. For you, it will be a matter of seconds in between this. For us, we will have watched almost a 3-hour long movie.
You will travel through time.
Hang on, 3 hours? I didn't sign up for 3
is
hours.
It 2 hours,
and
40
45 minutes.
Wow.
Put commercials at the beginning and trailers.
Yeah. Okay.
It's a long one. So the one thing you may notice, the order of our MySequel podcasts are a little out of whack. We recorded a bunch a couple of months ago when we were gearing up for this, but we wanted to get this one out here since the movie is still in theaters. So the references we make this episode are going to be more timely than references we make in later episodes of MySequel. It's going to be a little weird. Everything's going to be a little out of order, but theoretically you should be hearing this soon. Our time soon compared. Podcasting's weird.
Yeah. We're getting our timelines all screwed up here.
Yeah. So real quick, we just want to talk. We're about ready to take off for the movie. We wanted to talk about some of our expectations for Batman v Superman. So who wants to start us off? What are we thinking we're going to see? Are we excited?
It's low expectations, even before the critic the reviews came out.
It was low expectations before that, and I'm like going into this with like an experiment of like, what is it like? Not even to try to like any objectivity. This movie has to prove itself to me.
Yeah, and we should say we're actually again timeline stuff. This is the second weekend that the movie's been out for us. So we do know we now have the hindsight. Critics were not very happy with this movie. Made a shitload of money, but it is dropping quickly. It's going to be, they're predicting a very large drop off this weekend.
The most confusing part for me, aside from why Batman is fighting Superman, is how Batman came from Daredevil. How does that work?
He crossed universes.
He just became.
Yep. He just became. He got his eyesight back and he became Batman.
Yep.
God, it was funny. Speaking of Matt and I were actually talking on the way over here about what was the worst movies we've seen in theaters. And what were your two movies, Matt?
The two that came to mind were Daredevil and My Soul to Take. And if you've never heard of the latter, that's okay because it was...
Oh, it's bad. It's late Wes Craven.
Yeah. The best part of that for me seeing it in theaters was it was in 3D. We had 3D glasses on. And there was like no 3D in this movie, but Daredevil, that's a little bit more,
it's
known.
just weird.
So,
which is just funny though that because that was your first date with your now wife.
Yes.
You're still together after seeing My Soul and Taken 3D.
Okay, I was going to say Daredevil. How long have you guys been dating?
No.
Wow. I think I was in high school.
Daredevil's old. Did we see Daredevil with you?
I don't know. I don't remember.
I don't remember. That movie was terrible.
Yeah,
I gotta say, I was actually though excited because Daredevil was terrible. I was kind of excited. I'm excited for Affleck Batman.
Yeah.
I think he'll do a good job. He's proven himself in recent years. Argo was one of my favorite movies a couple of years ago.
I've always kind of liked Ben Affleck, and I'm a huge Kevin Smith fan, but Daredevil was just kind of bad.
Oh,
in
he's
general.
terrible.
And it wasn't necessarily his performance, but it was just a bad
his performance
movie.
was weird, which is funny now because now we have good Daredevil in the Netflix series.
Yeah.
Which, if you haven't seen season 2, go watch season 2. It's really great. But it's so funny, like thinking about Affleck Daredevil, because he's got like a weird look on his face every time we see him because he's blind, but he doesn't. Not to be offensive, but it looks like he has mental problems in Daredevil, just the way he looks. It doesn't look like I'm blind. It's weird.
You know the one thing I took away from that movie? He folds the money so he can tell what the different bills are.
Yeah, which is a real thing.
That's the only thing I really remember about that movie.
It's like that's the one thing they're like, this is going to be authentic.
I don't remember very much about it.
Yeah.
Well, I think something that's very telling, because we're about to get out of here, is we were supposed to be talking about our expectations for Batman Superman. We're talking about Daredevil.
Yeah,
I am not excited for this movie. This movie kind of looks like a steaming pile. And then I guess last thing we'll say before we go, I saw Man of Steel in theaters. I did not like Man of Steel. I didn't think it was terrible, but I didn't like it. Jake?
I saw Man of Steel on Blu-ray a couple years later and had low expectations. I didn't think it was too bad, but I've never been a huge Superman fan anyways, so it didn't take a lot.
And Matt.
And I haven't seen Man of Steel or the previous Superman movie, so I'm like a weird control subject in this experiment.
We'll see what Matt
I
thinks
think
about
Matt
the movie.
had the best line about this movie the other day when we were talking. What did you
Yes.
tell us?
Well, I'm excited because I'm a huge Jesse Eisenberg fan, so that's all I'm curious to see is.
I heard somebody say Schumacher in describing Jesse Eisenberg's performance in this movie. I'm excited though, because honestly, I kind of hate super serious, dour Superman. I kind of want stupid Jesse Eisenberg running around acting like a maniac.
Yeah, there's just always like when there's like an actor character in a movie that is completely out of step with the rest of the movie, that always kind of excites me too.
Yes. No, it's going to be glory. All right. So for us, we're going to sign off real quick. Again, for you, we'll be back in matters of seconds. And we're back. We just saw a movie. We have an extra guest now. Hey, Robert.
Hello.
Robert got times messed up.
Yeah, I did.
So is this kind of guest starring Robert this time?
Yeah,
since he wasn't there for the entire show.
You were in here for pre-gaming.
I'm disappointed in myself about that.
So yeah, we saw a movie. So for you, we were talking before, for you, it was probably about 2 seconds between. For us, we just saw a 2 hour and 45-minute long movie. Yay! Now we're going to talk about it. So before we get into actual Batman v Superman,
Wait, is that the real runtime? It's 2:45?
something like that.
I think it was 240.
Could be. Yeah, right around in there. Right around in there. Real quick, since our podcast is called MySequel, we talk about things as sequels. We want to talk real briefly about Man of Steel, the movie that came before. Like we mentioned before, when we were supposed to be talking about it, we just talked about Daredevil for about 6 minutes.
Best intro ever.
Yeah. So Man of Steel. Me personally, I did not really enjoy Man of Steel. We kind of mentioned that before. Robert's a man of... You like Man of Steel.
I'm a fan. It could have been better, but all in all, I like it.
I think it's probably the best Superman movie that they've made compared to like the one in 2008 or whatever.
See, I would take Superman Returns over Man of Steel.
See, I didn't think it was too bad, but it wasn't great. So
yeah, I still like. I actually I was watching about the Christopher Reeve Superman. I was rewatching that in preparation for this, and man, I miss fun Superman. Like that's alive, and I get. Yeah, I'm not going to begrudge anybody that likes the new Superman stuff. Yeah. I just kind of have realized for me, it's just not quite my cup of tea.
See, and I've just never really cared for Superman as a character, personally, as a superhero. I think this is Matt's first experience ever seeing Superman. Like this is his first introduction.
No,
to it.
I saw it's the third one with Richard Pryor.
Yes, the third one.
There
is
we
Richard
go.
Pryor.
Richard Pryor is a computer scientist.
Yes, he is.
You picked that one to watch?
That's the only Superman movie I've seen in its entirety.
So yeah.
So I'm thinking this is like, for me, this is a sequel to that one.
yeah. Where's Richard Pryor at?
Kind of is.
So Man of Steel. Back to actual Man of Steel. Fairly divisive movie, but not critically panned. It didn't get great marks, I think, when that one came out, but it wasn't terrible.
It was kind of nice that they chose not to just do another Lex Luthor story again with
I
that
did appreciate
one,
that.
which
I did
they've
appreciate that.
kind of overdone, I think, and they really played up his backstory a little more than I think they did in some of the other movies or the ones I've watched.
Yeah, the Krypton sequence in Man of Steel, that's about 20 minutes of the movie.
Yeah.
That takes a while before we get to Earth. And Man of Steel, which there was some interesting stuff, even though it felt like Avatar. We had Avatar birds and floating rocks and
Oh, well, that definitely lowers its grade in my mind, my hypothetical grade for it.
no, I do agree. I appreciate that it wasn't a Lex story, which we'll talk about. That this movie was a Lex story. It was Lex a villain. But I was actually kind of glad, with Man of Steel that because I think that was a problem with Superman Returns, and I don't particularly like Superman Returns. But they went back to Lex Luthor again. That it was nice. I do appreciate Man of Steel that they kind of tried something a little bit different.
Yeah, and I don't know about the comic books, but Lex Luthor is kind of like Batman's Joker, right? Like his prime villain.
Superman's? Yeah, Lex is
He's the worst. He's his arch nemesis, but he's not a good villain for Superman.
you got to write Luthor in a very, very specific way, I think, to make it work. I really liked Luthor in the animated stuff, like Superman, the animated series, and Justice League, and I thought they did a good job with Luthor there, but yeah, he's not particularly... We'll get into it for the new movie, how we felt about new Luthor.
Yeah. I think the only thing that we really kind of even segues the two is just at the end when Metropolis is getting destroyed. Right. So,
which segues into Man of Steel. Not bad. It didn't do bad either at the box office. Not that critical.
It's been kind of my impression that the only people that really have negative things to say about it are fanboys, comic fanboys. Like general non-comic-y people all tend to really like it, and I liked it. But I mean, there's just certain things about Superman that Man of Steel missed, and it did not go over well with.
Again, I appreciate they tried something different. Like I said, at the end of the day, it's just I don't feel it's for me. I don't get much out of it. But I got to say, Man of Steel is up in my estimation now after watching this movie. It's like, wow, Man of Steel wasn't so bad. It could have been worse. Which I think is our great segue into we saw Batman v Superman.
I just want to throw this out there. The thing that irks me about Man of Steel and in this movie too, the thing that they miss about Superman that kind of maybe goes back to, you call it fun, but the awe of Superman. He's not awe-inspiring. Like,
I think in a weird way he's awe-inspiring. That they hit so hard he's Jesus.
Yeah, they try try to make him awe-inspiring,
but it doesn't. Yeah,
like, did they ever, like in the comic books, or other things, like compare him as a god?
Yeah,
did they?
Yeah, that comes up, but
comes up all the time. Gods among us,
right?
Yeah.
DC Comics is essentially gods and men. I mean, that's really kind of their shtick.
Yeah, so I mean, it comes. They hit it so hard in the movie. So many in a Man of Steel too. There was like a moment where he's like in a Jesus pose, kind of.
And they do it in such awkward ways.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Like
I agree with you. It doesn't
down.
quite work. The awe-inspiring, and it should. That should be the easiest thing to get about Superman.
I feel like I get the impression that the filmmakers don't really understand that sort of thing. They don't actually understand like religion or spirituality or any of those kind of ideas.
Do we want to throw out the spoiler warning now or talk about?
Let's talk real quick. What's our general? We'll real quick. We're gonna give general impressions of what we thought of Batman v Superman, and then we'll get into some spoilers, and then we'll talk about it as a sequel. And I think you're probably getting the tone of the room so far if you're listening. I don't think we liked this movie.
Yeah,
I did not.
It was not great by any means.
I mean, if you're starved for just seeing Jesse Eisenberg, then yeah, by all means see it. But otherwise, I'm going to say no.
I was disappointed. There are aspects of the movie that I liked. There were themes,
Yeah.
and they had things going on that I thought were cool ideas, but not well executed.
And then
Yeah.
they just chose to do some really weird stuff.
Yeah, there's some weird moments in this movie. Which I think, okay, let's, we're going to talk for a few minutes about some specific plot points. So if you have not yet seen the movie, I would say skip ahead.
So back to Superman being Jesus
Uh-huh.
outside the Supreme Court. The only sign that is really obvious that you can read that a protester's holding up says you can't be Christian and like aliens too.
I missed that. I
Okay,
didn't-
it's like the only
Wow.
one that you can really read out of all the signs.
That's awesome.
I don't know if that was a spoiler or not, but
No. Well, we're in spoilers, so we can talk about
Yeah.
the movie.
there is a court.
Yeah, there was a court. Well, it was Congress.
Oh, that's what
They
it was
were in
actually.
Congress.
Capitol Hill, they were on the hill.
Sorry, the V, Batman v
Yeah.
Superman. I'm in the wrong.
And we were talking about that would have been a better sequel if Batman would have sued Superman. I would have enjoyed it more.
I mean, technically, he did do a lot of damage to Bruce Wayne's
he
personal
did.
property.
Their insurance rates are
Yeah.
just screwed.
They could have gotten Matthew McConaughey to be a lawyer.
Oh my God, yes.
That would have been
This
perfect.
okay? We can't jump ahead yet because we have a whole section where we're talking about the movie we wish we just
We're
saw.
just like pulling our teeth to even talk about this
I know,
movie. First, we
it's-
talk about Daredevil before we see it. Now we're just
It's rough. There. Okay, let's talk. Let's go. What's something we liked about it? We were talking on the way back over to Jake's. I liked.
I was not in that car. I did not talk about
So
this.
Jake, yeah, Robert was not.
Robert
was not in the
refuses
fun
to
car.
spend any time with us unless the mics are in front of us.
Right. We all hate each other outside of this. So, no, but I think what I enjoyed about the movie, I like the beginning part with Bruce Wayne street level during basically the end scene of Man of Steel. I thought that was a nice continuation for Man of Steel. That we kind of see a ground level view of what's happening. I liked that scene. It wasn't very long, but I actually liked. It gave some stakes that Man of Steel I think was lacking from the fight sequence a little bit by getting a little bit more. There's some of that in Man of Steel, but I liked a little bit more man on the
Kind of a
ground.
third-party perspective, even. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Seeing it from the ground floor.
Right. I liked that. I actually liked that part of the movie.
I thought cinematography-wise, it looked really good.
Yeah. Good looking. I mean, Zack Snyder can make a movie.
That's yet to be determined. I think if we would have opened to that, if we would have went straight from opening credits
Yes.
to that, I think that probably would have helped the movie a lot more.
Yeah, it would have been nice. It would have connected a little bit more with Man of Steel too. The problem is the movie starts with another retelling of Batman
Which
origin.
I was okay with. I was liking it. It kind of really felt like they were throwing it all the way back to the first Batman movie with
Keaton.
Michael Keaton. For me, you know, and I was trying to be open-minded about the movie up until the part where Batman is lifted, little Bruce Wayne is lifted out by the bats. He just like flies out of there.
Yeah,
and,
that
I,
was
and I
just-
literally turned to Matt and I'm just like, I'm out. Like,
That was true. I think that was dream imagery. I think is
well,
what
yeah,
that
but
was.
that's the first dream sequence, and they don't really imply that it's a dream
Dream
sequence.
sequences
though.
are a problem in this
Yeah.
movie.
They're a big
Yeah,
problem.
there's like 5 dream sequences in this movie. Well, one of them maybe not a dream sequence. One maybe a premonition from the future from the Flash.
Before we get too far, did Matt like anything about this movie?
Oh yeah, let's.
I actually kind of like the part where Batman went to save Ma Kent. It's the first time in a long time we've gotten a movie with Batman fighting where we could see Batman fighting.
Yes.
So, that puts it miles ahead of a Christopher Nolan Batman movie.
I liked Affleck. I thought Affleck was great.
I would have never have pegged Batman to be such a dreamer. No.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
That, like, I kind of said this in our intro, but I've been trying to figure out why Batman is fighting Superman this entire time. And basically, what I gathered is Batman is old and has dementia, and Superman, as Clark Kent, all he wants to do is write about this guy, and his editor won't let him, so he's gonna like drum up a fight. That's the real reason these two guys are fighting.
I think Perry White is the worst newspaper editor ever. Like he's like, I got a great story about Batman. I got a great scoop. No, you write about the high school football
What
team.
about football, son?
And I love how he's just generically like, football, sports, go.
Yeah.
Like,
Why? You're terrible at your job, Perry. I like Lawrence Fishburne, but Perry was kind of there. That's a problem. Is a lot of the characters that we were introduced to in Man of Steel that we don't get a lot of. We did spend a lot of time with the Daily Planet people in Man of Steel, and that was something I was hoping for in the sequel. But the problem is it's not it's not Superman's sequel. We're gonna get more into this, but it doesn't necessarily feel like his sequel. But that means we spend no more time with the characters, which was a shame because again, that was part of after Man of Steel. Was like, well, I'd like to know more about Perry and the Daily Planet people and Lois and all this stuff, but we don't spend any time. We spend very little time on it because there's 5 different movies happening at the same time.
Yeah,
I would like to point out, and I actually stumbled across this in an article, so I knew about it going into this. But did you guys catch in the desert sequence in the beginning who was with Lois? You know who that was?
Who?
That was what's his name? The newspaper guy.
Jimmy?
That's Jimmy Olsen.
That's supposed to be Jimmy?
They killed off Jimmy Olsen in the first 5 minutes of the movie.
And he was using a film camera.
yeah, that was really weird.
Yeah.
Another one of those just kind of
That
weird
just took
choices.
me out of the movie from that
Yeah.
point on. I was just like,
Yeah.
you're
he-
just like doing this to show this. This isn't like.
He also just like martyrs himself too soon. He's like, put the bullet in my head. Like he's not like trying to fight or anything.
Yeah,
Or,
okay, I
or
didn't know
beg
that was
for his
supposed to be
life.
Jimmy.
Yeah,
Oh,
they
that's
don't ever
crazy.
bring up his name, but apparently, and I didn't look for it, but apparently, if you look at the credits, he's credited as being
It's
Jimmy Olsen.
terrible.
Yeah.
What a disservice to the character. I thought he was just random dude. Well, it's just like there's just not Jimmy. There just isn't Jimmy Olsen.
They did kind of seem like they were forcing a emotional connection to the guy somehow.
That
a
is
little bit.
true because he's like Lois, don't worry. He says
Yeah.
something that makes a lot more sense if he's supposed to be Jimmy that they have a connection. But the problem is, as the audience, we don't know that, and it made it weird. Wow. Okay.
Well, that whole opening.
That whole opening.
That part was all weird.
Okay.
Anyway.
The opening, towards the beginning of the movie, they're in Africa, and so basically we eventually learned that Lex is framing Superman for killing all these villagers, but Lex's guys are shooting people. When they go, does somebody not go look at that and be like, oh, these people are shot to death?
Yeah,
Does
Superman
Superman shoot people now?
landed and just shot a bunch of people.
Superman doesn't need to shoot people.
Well, but
He does. He
they,
shoot people,
they're
Robert.
stressing that there's something important about that bullet.
Right.
Yeah.
But we never get any information on.
Well, it's
Does
just
that
like
bullet make it look like
That's what
like
I was
you got
thinking.
a broken neck instead of a hole?
Right, yeah. Because there's like...
It's a laser vision bullet is what I was thinking. Like
'cause
they
these
were
people
gonna.
are straight up just shot to death.
Yeah.
Why are we blaming Superman for shooting people to death?
Yeah, that was not very well.
That was... Okay, I want to talk about another part I liked about the movie. And I don't care because a lot of critics were this part. I loved Jesse Eisenberg.
I hated that.
He did not give a shit about what was happening around him.
Good Jesse Eisenberg. Bad Lex Luthor.
He was kind of. I feel like he was the only character I really understood
Yeah.
in a way.
I kind of got what he was up to a little bit. I didn't quite get his overall plot with Batman and Superman fighting. But I at least got some motivation out of him.
Yeah, and I brought this up in the car, but I really felt like he got away with it. Like Superman's dead. Batman's not going to come testify in
there's
court.
a big spoiler.
Yeah.
I hope you've seen the movie. we said spoilers, so you're fine.
Yeah.
But
Way to go. I don't think we said spoilers
Yeah, we
enough
did.
times for him to justify that.
the end of the movie.
It's okay.
I hated Lex. Of all the incarnations of Lex Luthor I've ever seen, I think his was the worst. Like, I prefer Kevin Spacey's stupid ass
Even
Lex
in-
Luthor over the because he's insane. He's
Yeah,
not
he's not
right in the
Lex.
head. That's not Lex Luthor. That's a
Yeah.
completely different character.
Yeah. No, and I would agree. He is not a good Lex Luthor, but every time Jesse Eisenberg was on screen, I was having way more fun every time he was on.
And he kept
I
doing-
just feel like I knew more what that character wanted. Like, and then everybody else is like, we're gonna fight for some reason, but Jesse Eisenberg is like,
Batman has very
Yeah.
faulty logic. If there's a 1% chance he could hurt
Yeah.
us,
No, dude,
we
straight
have
up-
to take it to the absolute.
That's something else that really bothers me.
Straight up
because
dementia.
Batman
He's
is
a bad dementia.
Batman is a number cruncher, right? He's the
Right.
world's greatest detective. He puts numbers together. A person like Batman puts numbers together and says, "Well, if there's a 1% chance if there's only a 1% chance that Superman's going to turn bad, we're in pretty goddamn good hands."
There's a lot of other options than murder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a wide gulf between being friends and murder. We don't need to immediately jump to murder. But that's what Batman does in this movie. I don't like gun Batman. I liked Affleck. I don't like Batman shooting people.
So I got to say this too.
Okay.
All right, so Man of Steel, one of the biggest gripes, as you know, that people have, is that Superman kills Zod, snaps his neck. Zod's about to melt the face off of a woman and some kid, and Superman straight up snap, right?
Snaps his neck.
whole fan fucking kingdom lost their shit, right? Superman doesn't kill. Superman doesn't kill. If they don't raise bloody hell about Batman killing all the people that he intentionally killed, Superman only intentionally killed Zod. Right?
Yeah.
In a moment of high stakes, he kills one guy. Batman rolls through the movie killing every damn body.
He murders so many people in this movie.
Oh, and
in horrible ways.
Also, the dumbest car chase ever.
Oh, that car chase is just stupid.
It's so awful. Like he hits a car and it goes with the Batmobile and it just goes flying off like it's a toy. It just looks so cartoonish.
Yeah,
it was kind of like they were packing a lot of heat, like they knew Batman was coming to steal it. Like all of a sudden, like these cars are equipped with all these guns and stuff.
Yeah, they all have 50 cals mounted on them
it's like
and stuff.
They're illegally transporting the stuff in there. Who knows this is happening, right?
I get some guards, but
they knew, like it was way overprotected.
It's movie logic.
Yeah,
where it's like, no, of course we're gonna have all this stuff. Yeah, no, I think to your point, Robert, I think again that's what makes Man of Steel look a little bit better. It's like I look back, it's like, yeah, he just killed Zod. At least he only killed one person.
Zod is being a dick. Sounds like.
And technically, is it a person if he's an alien? Like,
there you go.
He wasn't even human.
I think part of my problem is I don't like Superman killing. That's again goes to what I like about Superman. But I think my problem a little bit was his reaction in Man of Steel when he snaps Zod's neck. No, and he kind of has this like a little meltdown. The problem is we don't really establish that he has a problem with killing before that. So it just feels a little weird. But I think. We'll talk more sequels we would like to see. What I would have liked to have seen, which would have helped that Man of Steel scene for me, is if this movie would have dealt a little bit more with his remorse of killing Zod, or him feeling bad that he had to kill somebody. And that could have been very interesting for a sequel to Man of Steel. Maybe a little bit of him like realize like, oh, I don't feel good about this. You know, like I feel like I had to do it, but there's a character beat to it then that helps that Man of Steel work a little bit better.
Killed the last Kryptonian besides himself.
Right. I mean, there's a lot of meat you could have taken out of that.
What about, like, so when he just flies past that guy, takes him through a brick wall when Amy Adams is sitting there? Is that guy still alive?
No, he's deader than shit.
So he's killed two people.
So maybe, yeah, I guess we could assume the cartoons. Cartoons and comics. I'm okay when people get thrown through walls, but they're trying to be kind of realistic at points in this movie, and it's like you can't send a person through a brick wall.
Yeah, that guy was liquid.
Yeah.
Even like I felt like too. Going back to the opening, when Bruce Wayne's mom gets shot, it's like, oh, she got shot at like point blank range
in the face.
In the face. And then we see her like face, and she got a little bit of blood. I was like, no, she doesn't have a face anymore.
Yeah, that's gonna be a close cast.
Yeah.
Well, and then it's kind of like, so young Bruce Wayne is just running out in the middle of nowhere for a really long time. Like, I'm never coming home. I'm going to live in the woods for the rest of my life. He's just out there nowhere.
Yeah. Also, Wayne Manor's burned down.
Yeah. I feel like we're owed a
again.
little
There's like we needed a bat. We need it, and this is I think goes to a lot of people talk about the Marvel and DC stuff. This is a problem with the way I think they chose to do this movie. I think it would have been better if we had a Batman movie first.
I liked that the manor was burnt down. Now I know the two and I think other people might make this connection. And I know the two movie universes aren't connected.
Right.
But when I saw that manor burnt down, I thought, yeah, that makes sense. Because of Dark Knight.
From Dark Knight. But it's kind of those weird continuity things where it's like, so is some of Dark Knight trilogy?
Yeah, they're just kind of picking and choosing.
I don't know.
Well, I mean, I don't think that they're trying to make that connection. But I mean, it just because that exists out there, I could say, I can understand why. I can see that there would be some backstory.
I'm fine with it being burned down. It's just that literally there's no mention of it being burned down.
Yeah,
I don't think there has to be. I think that's. I don't know if foreshadowing is the right word for it, but it's not the right word for it. But I mean, it's alluding to a past.
Right.
Because he's an older Batman. That's
right. Yeah, I mean, that wasn't a terrible moment for me, but it was just one of those like, I would rather. Again, I think it would have been better. I think they're going the wrong direction. Because let's talk about the other important character in the movie that's in it for probably a total of 6 minutes. Wonder Woman. What do we feel about Wonder Woman and setting up the Wonder Woman movie? I don't want to see the Wonder Woman movie now.
I thought
this kind of confused me.
I was kind of. I gotta say that was actually one spot in the movie where when she popped in, not as whoever was she was supposed to be, but as Wonder Woman, I kind of got a little excited there. I was like, this is cool.
I don't know. It didn't do it for me, the Wonder Woman stuff, which made me a little sad because I was kind of excited about Wonder Woman. I like Wonder Woman, but I don't know. I didn't necessarily like... Now, the hard thing is I don't think this was a good script at all. So maybe she could do a better job if there's a better script in the other one. I don't know. It's hard to tell from what little we saw of her.
I feel like this kind of rammed it in there, too. Like,
oh, yeah.
Just like, well, let's do this and let's do that.
She shows up for a couple of times, and then she shows up at the end. I didn't mind her. Her fighting was cool. You know, I mean, that was fine. But I don't know.
I'm not on board with her being as strong as they made her out.
Yeah, they really they boosted her power level a little bit because in the comics she's not as strong as Superman. She's a better fighter than Superman is.
Also,
but she's not as strong.
The Kryptonian monster at the end, her sword can apparently damage it to some degree. You know what I mean?
Was like, she chopped his arm off.
Yeah, versus they kind of play it up that only Krypton can kill this thing.
There's like we gotta hit the Krypton dust before we can stab him.
Yeah.
Because Batman references that. He's like, oh, I got to hit him with this and then I can stab him.
That was the other thing we kind of talked about in the car. So we should have had a car podcast as well. But we kind of said that in the Man of Steel movie, there's no reference to kryptonite.
Nope.
And that it has anything to do with it. And all of a sudden, like, everybody's just kind of like, oh, yeah, kryptonite. This is how this works. It's in this universe.
Yeah, I think it goes a little quick. Like, I don't mind that we get to it in this movie, but it was just kind of one of those. But it was funny, though, because in rewatching the original one, man, Lex Luthor figuring out kryptonite can hurt Superman in the 70s version is bad. Because Lex Luthor's like, oh, he's from a planet. I bet there's meteorites from that planet. I bet that can kill him. Like, that was some jumps in logic there, Lex.
Wow.
So I guess it wasn't very well handled in that movie either. Again, I would have rather seen a Superman sequel, and we could have delved more into some of this stuff. But everything gets a short shrift because we've got 5 or 6 things happening at any given moment.
I'm kind of cool. I'm kind of cool with how they did with the kryptonite thing because the thing is, and this bugged me about the opening. I'm tired of rebooting or reestablishing where these guys come from.
Yeah.
And there's just these are iconic characters. Mm-hmm. You're not going to a Batman or Superman not knowing what it is. Unless you're like one of the 5 people in the world, and who gives a damn if you are? Or kiss my ass. We know what kryptonite is, and we know what it does to Superman.
Right.
We know where Batman came from. We know his origin story. Right. We don't need to be rehashed that with every single reboot of these characters.
I don't think we necessarily needed a complete rehash kryptonite, but I think we needed just a touch a little bit more about it. Because we get that was. It's weird in the movie of what the movie seems to assume that the audience is going to know and then not know. Because there's certain things, where it hammers the point home. This is this. We got it. We know all this stuff. But then there's other times it's like, oh, you're probably going to get this because you know because you know the comics. It's weird in what it kind of explains too much and what it doesn't explain at all. And it's kind of odd, where it's like, what is your audience? Because you can make it for all new people, and then you're going to rehash a lot of stuff. Or you make it for the fans. You don't do any of that. You just get right into it. But it's a weird kind of hybrid, where it's assuming you know a lot, but at times assuming you know nothing.
Well, yeah, but I'm thinking because you're right. You have the comic book audience that are going to know a lot more detail about these characters. But I'm not thinking from that point of view. I'm thinking there have been 9 Batman movies. Right?
Yeah,
we know as a movie viewing audience about Bruce Wayne and Batman. We know that. Not from the comics, but from the cinematic universe.
Right.
And the same thing with Superman. We've had, 6, 7 Superman movies?
Well, 6. No.
It's in the public
5
mind.
and a half now.
Everybody kind of knows
so we know Superman's story. We know what kryptonite does. Not from the comic books, but from the movie world. But I think that's what's television.
Well, I think that's what's weird, though, is because I feel like that some of this is made for an entirely new audience of younger kids who don't know some of this yet because they haven't had this as much. But then again, it's weird because they give us some of these things where it feels like, well, this is for people who have no freaking clue.
Well, also foreign audiences.
And that's a big point, too, because they're banking hard. Because we were talking about, we know... we kind of gave that this is the second weekend. It took a huge tumble this weekend, but the foreign market is pretty big. And that's where everything's going, which is, I think, where you get a little bit more of this is they're pushing hard in some of these other things.
This movie's going to win because of spectacle. Not story, but spectacle.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's already won. I mean, it's made a shitload of money. It's not going to make quite as much as I think they were hoping to. But it's still going to... From what I'm reading, it's probably not going to cross $1 billion. Was what they were hoping, but probably not going to get there if they keep dropping. China dropped hard, too, for it. And America had a big drop-off. So, I mean, it's still going to make a crap ton of money. I mean, it's already made a crap ton of money. So... But I think maybe not quite as much as they wanted. But, so, yeah, this movie. Funny, too, talking about sequels, we can even talk about the things that it's setting up for other sequels. So there's cameos from Aquaman, Flash, and Cyborg. And they're all very silly.
And Iron Man.
And Iron Man. Okay, there's a dream sequence, and then somebody is talking to him, and he kind of looks like Iron Man. And we think it's the Flash coming back in time to warn Bruce. One of the dream sequences.
It's definitely Flash. He's on his cosmic treadmill.
Yep. Yay, cosmic
That's
treadmill.
a real thing.
It is. Cosmic treadmill is the thing. It shows up a lot.
I officially do not want to see whatever movie that is now.
Cosmic treadmill is awesome. I'm more okay with that than half the shit that happens in this movie. But I think one of my favorite parts is, so Batman steals some files from Lex and he sees all this information about metahumans, right? But they all have logos. The logos that are being used in the movie. So Lex Luthor gave them logos.
Yeah, the logos thing was...
It was so it's like, so you hired a graphic designer to come in and create logos for these people. But their cameos are weird. Like Aquaman, like just looks at the camera very weirdly and is like swimming. And then I actually kind of like the Cyborg thing. That was like a whole body horror Cronenberg shit
the only
happening.
one of those that was good was Cyborg.
Yeah, it's like whoa.
So are each of those guys getting their own movie?
Yes.
So, okay.
They all have their own movie.
Maybe.
Maybe. Well, depending after this.
Well, we'll see.
Yeah.
Justice League is coming before some of those movies are, though. Justice League is going to hit before some of their solo movies. Wonder Woman is up next, and Justice League, I think, is just about ready to start shooting.
I think it's shooting now, isn't it?
It might be, yeah. I mean, it's happening.
Now, I know I've seen set photos and stuff. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean they've started production, but they've been on the set.
They've started some stuff, so that's happening, and Zack Snyder's directing it. Because... Can we kick Zack Snyder out?
Can we beat him in slow motion?
Apparently, there's a petition going around for that.
There's a petition for everything.
Is it on change.org?
Yes. Yes, it is. So the president has to respond.
That's just the law.
Yeah. No, can we not have Zack Snyder? Which is funny because a few of the other directors from the other movies are trying to distance themselves. The director of the Aquaman movie is like, oh, our movie is going to be fun. Not Zack Snyder fun. It's going to be different. And Suicide Squad is going back into production to do some massive reshoots. And from what I've read, it's to amp up the fun and humor in it.
Can I just...
Yeah.
Can I make a critique of Zack Snyder?
Yes.
Right now. So here's my biggest problem with Zack Snyder. I mean, because like I liked Man of Steel. I thought that was pretty good, right? Mm-hmm. The problem with Man of Steel, and it's been carried into this film, which means that they've got to carry it into the next film, is that they've made
the red underpants.
Yes.
I want them back. In the
I do
worst way.
too.
I don't care about the red underpants.
I want red underpants.
But so in Man of Steel, Zod and Superman level Metropolis, right? There's just huge destruction, devastation, right? So you have the sequel. This is supposed to be the sequel.
Robert did kind of air quotes to the listening audience.
I did kind of do that.
That's my bit.
Yeah.
So we have to up the stakes. So now we have Doomsday,
Right.
and quite a bit of destruction, right? And a nuclear bomb.
Except for everybody, there was nobody there.
I know. We're gonna
They
have to
went
talk about.
home.
We're
They
gonna
went
have
home
to
after work.
We're gonna have to talk about that too. But the thing is because they make like when Doomsday evolves, that whatever the hell that was, that explosion of light, whatever that was, which was ridiculous.
Yeah.
And it caused all that destruction. You know, I mean, it's unnecessary, stupid special effects for nothing.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? So the thing is in order for us to get the stakes have got to be elevated for the next movie.
Right.
Which means they got to blow up the freaking world.
Yeah.
Like, they got to do something gnarly, ridiculously
Well,
devastating.
You don't have to always up the stakes. You can go slightly the opposite direction. You have to have a good story because sometimes movies
But again,
can do that.
this is a critique of Zack Snyder, who will not go for the story
Right, and you're
idea.
absolutely right. Yeah, because they're going to try to up themselves, but that's not the right direction to go. A better idea would probably be to go more personal the next time out instead of trying to.
Should have been personal this time.
Yeah,
out.
and you're right. It should have been. You're absolutely correct.
The first Man of Steel movie was an introduction to Superman.
Right.
This is the Man of Steel sequel. It should have been an exploration of Superman as a man. Mm-hmm. With elements of with Batman should have been a smaller character.
Yeah.
We should have gotten just enough of Batman that we wanted more Batman.
Mm-hmm.
We did learn that Superman is a man by the bathtub scene, fully clothed.
Amy, I thought I saw a glimpse of nipple.
I'm pretty sure that in the rated R version,
I think
there
Matt
is-
was
maybe
looking
made that
pretty
up.
hard, and he didn't tell me.
You really
he
wanted to see
I
Guns.
did want to. I love Amy Adams. This goes back to Dirty Sprocket podcast from years ago when we used to do this. We talked about Night at the Museum sequel, and the only reason to see it was Amy Adams' ass.
Holy shit, she had a great ass in that movie.
Yes!
This is why it's called Dirty Sprocket, by the way.
Yeah. After dark. Sorry. No. Yeah, it's... I want to talk about something that relates to Man of Steel. Okay. There's another dream sequence, because there's fucking dream sequences. Superman is climbing on a mountain, and he sees his dad. Who's dead? Piling rocks. Also, he
a
tells him
metaphor
yeah.
for Go Matt.
Oh, no. Metaphor of rocks. And then he tells a stupid story about them flooding their neighbor's
It's not stupid.
farm. That was stupid. That's not how...
Yeah,
I don't believe that's how that works.
I don't know how they diverted a river to their neighbor's farm. I'm a little confused on
They
that
use
one.
shovels. Were you
And
not
they were
paying
up all
attention?
night, and he like passed out, and his grandma made him a
And
cake.
you got a hero cake.
You got a hero cake.
Now you cut up.
And
So the rocks were the hero. Okay.
that was the
Yes.
metaphor.
Okay.
But I think the funny thing is there's several references that he makes, like Superman's not a thing. It was just a dream of a farmer from Kansas.
That was a little corny.
They kept referencing kind of like Pa Kent wanting him to do this. Like, in Man of Steel, Pa Kent is expressly telling him to not save people.
To stay hidden. Yeah,
There is
they're
never
not
a
ready
moment-
for you yet, son.
There is not a moment in Man of Steel where he's like, yeah, go save people. Busload of children, you could have let them drown. That's
Doesn't
maybe okay.
his
I'm not going
dad-
to be mad at you if you let them
Yeah.
drown.
Doesn't his dad die because he doesn't want him to be
Yes.
Superman?
Yes.
He goes back to save
Yeah.
a dog, and then a tornado carries him away.
The family dog. Was it the family dog?
I don't think it was
Or
the family
just
dog. It was
a
somebody else's
random
dog.
Random dog.
It was a stupid scene. I hated that part of Man of Steel, and I hated what they did to the Kents all the way through. But it just was funny because it felt like they were retconning Man of Steel. That when they kept talking about Pa Kent, it really felt like Pa Kent from the 70s movies and a lot of other media we've seen Pa Kent. It was like, yeah, when you say that...
Is that the
yeah.
official title, Pa Kent, or is this kind of your spin on it?
No, they call him Pa Kent.
They call him Pa Kent?
Pa Kent.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
pretty much... He's Mom Pa Kent. But it's almost like they're retconning because like that's not what happened in Man of Steel. They were not pushing...
It's what should have happened in Man of
Yes,
Steel.
it should have. That would have very much made me like
That's
that
one of the
movie
things,
more.
and you and I have talked about this before.
Yep.
That was one of the things that I was disappointed in Man of Steel. Is Man of Steel spent so much time talking about how depressing Superman's childhood was,
Yep.
where they should have been spending a lot of time talking about how loving his family life was, and what good, wholesome people his folks were, and how that instilled in him this drive to help mankind. But instead,
Right.
it was just like, it was a poor freaking emo kid who got picked on and couldn't beat the shit out of the bullies, and his dad told him that he couldn't help people because the world wasn't ready for him, and then boom, Superman. And that was really hard to...
Yeah. No, I agree. And it just was funny. It almost felt like they were trying to fix that in this movie.
a lot.
But the problem
they
is...
were trying to fix a lot of things in
Right.
this
But
movie.
it's like, that's a problem because we saw the other movie.
Yeah.
Well, Matt didn't, so... It
Oh
made,
yeah,
it
you
made
don't
sense to him.
You don't know. Yeah, it's all good. It's all good in the hood, bro.
Even like the fight at the end when they're like, we got to get him out of Metropolis to this abandoned port.
Yeah,
like
they
there's like
made-
it's an abandoned port where we can just fight this thing. There's
They
nobody
made
will get
several
hurt.
references to nobody's around to get killed because everybody was mad last time we did that. But I think the thing is, and I've listened to some interviews with Zack Snyder, I don't think he gets people's objections to the end of Man of Steel. Some of their problems with the destruction in Man of Steel. Now, there's some people that's like, well, I don't want destruction. But I think there's a lot of people that don't mind the destruction. What didn't like was it didn't feel like there was enough of Superman trying to stop the destruction. Right? A line or two explaining. But it was funny because he makes a comment like, well, in Age of Ultron, they blow up, the city and all these people die. But it's like, but in Age of Ultron, there's a plot point of that movie about them saving people. Like there's a good chunk of that Sokovia end scene is them working on saving people. And I think that was a problem a little bit people had with Man of Steel. Not actually that they leveled Metropolis, but there was never even a line of, God, you could have fixed it with like, he's like, Zod, if you want me, you got to come get me. I'm going to fight you in the Arctic or something. Zod's like, no. And then like blows up a building. Superman's like, oh, I can't. We got to fight here. I got to stop him.
Or even if, they emphasize the fact that there's 3 of them and he can't drag all 3 of them.
Right.
He's all over the place just trying to keep up.
Well,
is
by the
essentially
end,
what
it's
he's
just
doing.
Zod.
No, but but by that time.
Right. That's the thing is, I think that carries over into this movie. Some of the problems in the movie is like, it felt like they were trying to fix some things from Man of Steel, but they didn't understand why people didn't like some of those parts of Man of Steel and fixed incorrectly. Because it was weird that they kept referencing that nobody was there.
Well, and they...
Like, that was awkward, where it's like, oh, and nobody's there. Everybody left.
Except for the Daily Planet, where they work way too late all the time.
Oh, that goes back. We were talking in the car. The beginning. Car talk coming soon. Was the opening scene with Bruce and
They've already done a car talk.
Yeah, they have.
Which is a really good show.
Damn it, we're gonna get sued now.
No, the one guy's dead and they retired anyway.
Well, good.
No, good. That was a good show.
That was
bad. That was bad. That was bad.
I didn't mean
form.
that. Internet, I didn't mean that. I didn't mean that.
It was a click and clack attack. Brothers are awesome.
I apologize. But no, there was a funny moment again. Like, and I like that opening scene of Bruce trying to get to Wayne, his building. But he calls the guy and is like, "You need to evacuate." And the guy's like, "Yeah, let's evacuate." He's like, "You should have done that an hour ago. There's a giant alien spaceship blowing stuff up. You don't need your boss to call you and tell you it's okay to go home."
I had a hard time with that too. Yeah,
I was like, they should have known to be out of there by now.
What do you mean you had to call and ask somebody? What do we do?
Right,
dummy.
Is that little girl's mom dead?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
I like how he assumed it was her mom.
Yeah.
You're assuming a lot there, Bruce.
He's a misogynist.
Yeah. What if he's got 2 dads? She could have 2 dads.
Then he's a homophobe also.
You don't know that, Bruce.
Superman is a misogynist homophobe.
Derek, world's greatest detective. He knows.
Yeah.
Oh, it's Batman, not Superman.
Batman, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Batman.
Actually,
misogynist homophobe.
How did he get the title World's Greatest Detective? Is this like self-assigned? He just shows up in his
I
cape?
hope so. I hope he got himself a mug at some point.
He came from Detective.
Dick Tracy's just like...
He came
What's the
from
50s
Detective
Batman
Comics.
animated
but
series?
in his world.
Yeah.
Which is Detective
All-Star
Comics.
Batman.
But his
No,
Batman
All-Star
world.
Batman.
Is from
Can I say
Detective
it?
Comics.
Does he show up and pull
I
out
love
a
how you
business
and I
card?
have
I
a
am...
conversation going on. And
This
these
is
guys
very
have a
confusing to the audience.
conversation going on.
No. What Matt was talking about was
Just listen to Robert and Jake. Ignore those other clowns.
There was a cartoon, Batman Brave and the Bold, which was very, very good. But there was an episode where Red Tornado is trying to figure out a gift for Batman for Christmas. And he eventually gets him a mug that says the world's greatest detective.
Oh, dear God.
It's great.
So that's how this works then.
Yes.
It was a coffee cup.
Yeah.
That episode also has like the best like depiction of like Bruce Wayne's parents being murdered too.
Yeah.
Where it's like very simple, but it's like it doesn't have to take forever to do it.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the thing is at the end of the day is, man, there's a lot of failed opportunities in this movie. And there's a lot of other places that you can see similar stories done a lot better. A lot of similar ideas that have been tackled way better in other movies or cartoons or comics or different things like that.
It was a little weird when so Superman's already got the trident of Krypton stabbed. It wasn't a trident. It was a spear of Krypton.
It was a one dent.
Stabbed into the monster, right? Mm-hmm. Then he gives his last go and shoves it through the other side, which feels like it's doing less damage.
It was hurting him more when it was inside
that's
of
what
him.
I thought.
I thought that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, well, you just fucked up there. Now it's like a clean in and out entry.
That brings up something else we should talk about. The true villain of the movie, Lois Lane,
Who
who takes the spear that can kill the
And again,
Kryptonian.
she knows what this is for no reason. She doesn't like other than she saw Batman fighting
Right.
him with it, but
She's inferring a little bit.
They're
Yeah.
sleeping together. She knows about his dirty laundry.
or she just
Well, he doesn't really know about it.
She knows about it 'cause it's in the
Superman doesn't know
bathtub.
about it until then.
and how she
think
just
he knows.
shows up everywhere.
I think he doesn't know that Bruce Wayne has it, but I think he knows all about kryptonite.
what I want to know is how many like people he lets die whenever Lois is in trouble.
Oh, yeah, lots
like
of
is he just
people.
off like, oh, I'm just saving this bus? Nope, flies
Gotta
off
go
and
save
catches her
Lois.
falling off a building.
My favorite part is everybody knows where the spear went, but nobody should know where the spear went except for Lois. But then why does Lois know to go get the spear?
Yeah.
It was, I mean, you can maybe make it work where you're like, well, if, and then if, and then if. And that's not good screenwriting. You shouldn't have to be like, to do kind of loops in your head to make it make sense. Just don't ever throw it in the water and then it's there.
She was trying to hide it from Batman.
Yeah, but that's not a good hiding place.
Batman can't see that deep in the water.
That's his only weakness. Batman
That
can't
building
see
was
water.
old. It was probably lead lined. He doesn't have his X-ray vision.
He would have to recruit Aquaman to go get that spear back.
I was
Man,
half
nobody wants to
expecting
see
Aquaman to
Aquaman.
show up and save Lois.
Which would have been amazing.
That thought crossed my mind also.
Can we talk about a piss jar for a little bit?
A what?
The piss jar.
Oh, the piss jar.
Granny's peach tea?
So Lex has a weird talk with Holly Hunter, who's completely wasted in this movie. I love Holly Hunter, and I
Not
thought-
drunk, just wasted.
just
talent.
wasted. But so he has to talk, and she makes a comment about if you give me a jar of piss and call it something else.
Granny's peach tea.
Right. But the greatest is before. So Lex blows up Congress, or not all of Congress,
Capitol
but,
Hill.
but
Well, the,
blows
build,
up
the whole
Capitol Hill.
building kind of goes
Nah,
down.
at least a committee.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
committee's dead.
The Superman committee.
So he leaves. Somehow he got into Capitol Hill, a jar of piss, put on her desk that says Granny's peach tea, and she knows to be terrified, which was a little odd.
I think it was at
She
first she
should-
didn't know it was there, but she smelled the urine. Is that how that worked
I
out?
don't know.
I think
She's like, did somebody?
She's a
piss
weird
their
reaction
pants?
to it.
she seems terrified, but it seems like more she should have been like grossed out or like
But it seemed like she
irritated.
figured out the whole thing. But
Yeah,
she
real
should have
quick.
just been like, somebody pour this piss jar out.
Yeah, screw you, Lex, you asshole.
I gotta, because I was gonna say something to you because in a scene between those two just before that, she when they're talking about when they're setting up the Granny's peach tea joke,
Right.
she
A
lets
joke.
us know
They
that
blew
she's
up
from
Congress.
she's from Kentucky, right?
Yeah.
And then we go to this meeting, and there's a scene where she's talking, and you could see the guy next to her, and he's got a normal wine or water glass, and you could see that she's got a Dixie cup right next to her. And I was thinking that she was drinking out of a Dixie cup because she's from Kentucky, from Kentucky. I was like, that can't be real.
Well, yeah, and the big punchline of this joke then is Congress gets blown up.
Yeah.
But my favorite part of that though is imagining is that Lex pissed in that jar. That was a lot of piss.
Yeah.
That was quite a bit.
The part that
That's
kind of
probably a
disturbed me
couple-
too is he just like kills his assistant. Like,
Yeah.
hey, make sure you save my seat for me.
I felt bad.
Yeah.
Why did you kill Mercy?
Yep.
She got blowed up too. You didn't have to do that, Lex. You could have said, "Oh, she needs to come with me for a minute."
And also, was Lex making sure that the guy in the wheelchair didn't get his payment, his checks?
I think
Because they
they
made it
kind of
sound like
referenced that Lex was messing with Batman to push him to kill Superman. I don't know.
Yeah.
That was odd.
because it
That
said,
some
like,
of that motivation of putting Lex in the middle of that was
Yeah.
kind of weird.
well, they make the reference that the guy's been sending these checks back, right? And I'm assuming he's been sending these checks back for 18 months.
Yeah.
But Lex Luthor just meets this guy like 2 weeks before.
Well, he
So
might
it's-
have maybe he met him before. I don't know. But
Okay.
that's a lot of assumption.
Yeah.
Well, there was even a part of me too that wondered if that was supposed to be the Joker was doing something, because it was weird, more like Joker references.
Yeah, but Lex was almost kind of like on the Joker's level.
Oh yeah,
Yes, like
I never could have been the
Definitely
Joker.
Not right in
Yeah.
the head.
Yeah, he's more Joker than Lex in a lot of scenes.
I gotta say, for as much as I hated him as Lex Luthor, and I don't like Lex Luthor anyway, I think Lex Luthor's one of the weakest villains for Superman there is. But
haters gonna hate.
when they shaved him at the end, which, by the way, there's a buzz cut. They don't
Yeah,
take a razor to you.
Yeah, that was not a buzz cut. That was they had to go to razor.
But
to
after
his head.
they buzzed him and then shaved him, he looked like Lex Luthor.
I thought the same thing at the end, where I was like,
Like,
"Oh, this works
why,
now."
Yeah,
Yeah.
why couldn't
Yeah.
you act like Lex Luthor?
Well, and also why wasn't he bald earlier? There's like a weird like dun dun dun. He's like he could have just been bald.
I would have liked, and this is probably corny, but I would have liked for him to have gone bald for reasons other than a jail barber. Like he's
Right.
playing around with radiation and
And then he had
Kryptonian metals and stuff.
Yeah,
Something like that make
There's
him
so
go
many
bald.
different things you could have done, and that's this movie as a whole.
And
There's-
everybody knows that's the real reason why Lex Luthor hates
Right.
Superman is because
Yes.
Superman made him bald.
Yep, original comics. That's why.
just science.
Okay, well, I think we've talked a lot about the movie. We're gonna jump ahead here. We're going to talk about and I think we've answered this a little bit. What do we think of this movie in regards to it being a sequel of Man of Steel? Not necessarily whether we like the movie or dislike the movie. How do we think of it as a sequel?
I would also like to hear Matt's opinion of it as a sequel to Superman.
Yes, please,
3.
Matt, go first.
I thought
By
it was,
all-
I thought
by
it
all
was,
means,
I thought
sir.
it was perfect.
It was a great sequel. There's a part of...
Explained a lot of unfinished plot points from Superman 3, didn't it?
Yes, it did.
Yes.
Yep.
Which I probably saw like 20 years ago.
As a sequel, I don't actually think it's terrible as a sequel. It's not a good sequel. I think it's a better sequel than it is a movie.
It's a terrible movie. An okay sequel.
I don't even know if I'd go quite as far as okay. If I'm looking at it straight as a sequel, I don't necessarily hate it. I think it's a huge waste of opportunity because we're talking about that I would have rather spent so much more time with Superman and dealing with the after effects of Man of Steel. But there's parts of it that work and propel everything forward more, to a point. And then they killed Superman, which is just setting up the return of Superman, which would be the next movie or Justice League or whatever, whenever they're going to do that. I don't know. I will be probably a little more forgiving of it as a sequel, but given that I didn't actually like Man of Steel that much, that's not high praise.
I think they did a good job. Again, the scene that you talked about, you really liked, where it's Bruce Wayne rushing into Metropolis as it's being leveled, and they made that tie together really well and kind of like setting the groundwork for why Batman doesn't like Superman. But overall, I just felt like there was like manufactured drama too much. That just didn't really work for me.
Manufactured drama.
Red underpants.
I think what this movie reminds me of is this thing I heard about Alfred Hitchcock making Rear Window once. There's a scene where it's a small, tiny thing in the movie, but there's like this couple and they're moving like this mattress, and he told these two actors, like, you know, you both pull on it, but he gave them like separate instructions of how they're supposed to do this, so it looked like they were like arguing over how to do this. And I feel like this movie is like everybody in the movie was given a separate instruction on how to do this.
That makes sense. That makes sense for Jesse Eisenberg.
Like the scenes with Jesse Eisenberg were directed by like a second unit
Schumacher.
director that was like
Schumacher
angry
came
at
back.
Zack Snyder or something.
I feel like Jesse Eisenberg hates Zack Snyder, and that's all. Michael Shannon, I don't think particularly likes him. He did not have good things to say about this movie either. Somebody asked him who would win, and he's like, "I don't want to answer this question. This is stupid. I guess I'll root for Superman. I don't know. Don't." I mean, it's like annoying.
Technically, with Superman dying, Batman wins, right? That's just,
There you go. Batman won the movie.
Yeah.
Batman 1.
So, Robert, your thoughts?
It's a terrible sequel.
Yeah.
I mean, it's broken as I mean, this is as if because of the way that the movies are going now, as an expanded universe film, that's what this is.
Yeah.
Right? It's not a sequel. It's not a sequel. A sequel implies that we're taking Superman's story and we're moving it forward.
Right.
This isn't a story about Superman. He's almost a bit player. I mean, this is a Batman story.
Yeah, it's almost Batman's
True.
origin story more
I mean,
than
this
a
is
sequel.
as much as a sequel to Man of Steel as The Avengers is a sequel to Captain America. It's just not. I mean, it's in the same. It's in the expanded universe, but it is not a sequel.
I think they did delve with some things with Superman. I mean,
Well, just like Avengers dealt with some things from Captain America, but that doesn't mean that it's a Captain America sequel.
Right.
This is not a sequel to Man of Steel. This is a mini Avengers movie, or not a Avengers, Justice League movie. It's not. I mean, there's things that we needed to learn about Superman that we did not learn.
Yeah.
In this movie, you know, I mean, how's his mom doing? I mean, we see her. She's a
waitress.
That's an important plot point. I mean,
Who's growing all that corn on the farm?
well, she should be. You know, in the comics,
Well, the
she
corn
stays
is there.
Doesn't she stay pretty much on the farm?
Yeah. No,
Why
she's
are
on the
there
farm.
bagpipes at the funeral?
So
Yeah, that
we
also
see her.
bothered
We
me.
see her. We see her for a few minutes outside of a diner or some shit, and I don't know anything about how or why she's there.
I do.
How could she be in a diner in the middle of Metropolis in one scene and burying Clark Kent on a
think
farm
she
in the
was
next
it in
scene?
I don't know if it was in
Yeah.
Metropolis.
Or I mean, back in
Kansas.
Kansas.
Yeah.
It was kind of funny because they established that if that she's a witch, basically, and Jesse Eisenberg wants to light her on fire.
We don't establish that, Jake.
No, sorry.
Lex says she's a witch, so she's a witch.
They did not do an investigation. It's not like they threw her in the water like she sunk. Bitch is a witch.
So basically, they decide they're going to light her on fire if Superman does not bring Batman's head to him, right? And then they cut to the scene where she's sitting in a chair, and the guy's got a flamethrower.
I love that it was literal.
And
We're literally going to set her on fire.
And I lean over to Matt, and I'm like, overkill. And he's like, that or everything else?
Yeah, be more specific.
Yeah, be more specific.
Yeah.
So, yeah, as a sequel, I don't think this is a good sequel. I don't at all. I mean, the movie... I could give the movie a C+. There were things that I really liked about the movie. There were, for example, we don't talk about this much, but the Batman, Ben Affleck, and you mentioned, did an awesome job as Batman.
Yeah, that was great.
The Batman suit was
badass.
It
was a great. I was telling Matt, I liked that it looks more like the comic than Nolan's did, and he looked like he was so much more mobile than he ever looked in the Nolan movies.
But you still established that it's an armored suit,
right?
Like there was that scene where
he gets shot in the head.
Yeah. So
and adding the nipples was a little weird, but
and an action sequence, like I said, where you can see Batman fighting
and doing cool stuff.
But see, but this also kind of goes back to it not being a true sequel to Man of Steel, because they spent so much time and care trying to establish and make this likable Batman character. We didn't do anything about Superman, which this is a sequel of.
I think some of that might go back to a little bit of, I don't particularly like Man of Steel, so I don't know if it necessarily... That's why I'm probably a little bit more forgiving of it as a sequel, because I didn't particularly like Man of Steel either. So I'm just like, okay, whatever. I get they're dealing with some of the stuff. I would have loved... In a later podcast, we're going to be talking about this movie eventually, but I felt a lot like Into Darkness, Star Trek Into Darkness, that you had a lot of opportunities for the second movie, and you didn't go with any of them that you probably should have. And that's this movie.
Do you think this movie is a product of studio interference?
I think all movies are products of studio interference.
Well, I mean, not necessarily. I mean, to a greater or lesser extent, it happens. But I mean, there's some movies that are straight up ruined by studio interference. And I think this might...
I'm sure there's some of it.
Feels like that's what happened there. Like,
I feel like it's maybe that, or just the fact that they're trying to tie together a larger universe, and they're trying so hard to do kind of what Marvel has done.
Well, I think that's what happened. I think they were trying to fast track the Justice League movie, so they wanted to hurry up and establish all these characters. So you got too much going into a movie where the only person we should have met was Batman, and we should only have met him. Mm-hmm. Like there should have been. I like the idea of the Man of Steel and Batman going together, at it, but that should not have been so much of the focus of the movie was establishing Batman's hatred for Superman. You could have done that same fight differently and made it a true Man of Steel sequel.
Sure. Oh yeah, I think this movie is wasted potential. The movie.
Yeah. I think we're gonna take some, as this podcast goes on, we're gonna take some liberties with what is even considered a sequel. You know what I mean? But overall, I mean, I think you're right on, like, with the Avengers and Captain America. It's more kind of introducing that.
Right. I think when you talk about studio interference, I think part of my issue with this movie is I don't particularly like Zack Snyder. And I don't particularly like David Goyer, who wrote it. And I think in all the talk of everybody kind of hating on Zack Snyder for this sequel, for this movie, I think Goyer's getting off scot-free from a lot of people. I don't think he's a particularly good writer. And I think you can lay a lot of problems at his feet, too. But I'm sure the studio... I think it was a whole mess. I think you have a director who's he's better at visuals than he is storytelling. You have... Robert is shaking. It's an audio podcast. Nobody can see you shake your head.
I just let you finish your thought. But no, I would argue that he's not good with the visual stuff because it's too much. It's too big.
Well, I think he's got problems as a visual storyteller because he's so prone to excess. But I mean, he does some stuff well. Like I even like we said, that was probably the best live action Batman fight scene I've seen. Because we actually saw...
Because he had a gun?
Yeah. I don't like gun Batman. That was the only thing I hate about that fight scene was he just straight up shoots people several times. But I think he's a decent visual visual person, but he's not storytelling. And the problem is, I don't think Goyer's a particularly good writer. So you throw that into the mix of the studio wanting there to be Justice League, and it's just a big stew of putting everything in, and then shit comes out. All right, we're gonna jump to our last segment of the podcast, and then we're gonna get out of here. So one of the things we like to talk about is we're gonna talk about 2 sequels, real quick. We're gonna talk about the sequel we would have liked to have seen for Man of Steel, and where should be the sequel to Batman v Superman be. I'm gonna start real quick with Man of Steel. Usually mine, audience, this is probably episode 2 for you. So you haven't heard the other podcast. Mine are usually joke sequels. Again, my sequel would have been so much more to Man of Steel would have been Superman dealing with his issues of killing Zod and what it means to be a hero, and delving more about Clark Kent and his life and the Daily Planet. And yeah, honestly, I would have liked no Batman in it. Even though I like some of the things they did with Batman, but I would rather, if I was doing a sequel to Man of Steel, I would have fixed the problems that I had with Man of Steel and deal with these things, and that would have been the movie. And I probably would have done Lex as a villain, but different, more. They kind of do with him doing stuff behind the scenes. I probably would have played up more with that, not Lex building a giant cave troll from Lord of the Rings that punches Superman to death. But that's my sequel. So that was my sequel to Man of Steel. Who wants to go next for the sequel to Man of Steel? Matt does not get to participate.
Yes, I do.
All right, what's your sequel?
So all you have to do is do what Justice
have you
League,
guys
the
firmly
animated
beforehand
series.
beforehand that he has not seen?
Oh yeah,
Man
we
of Steel?
talked about this.
So
That's why we talked about Daredevil.
all you really do is do what the Justice League animated series did, because they kind of did what they wanted to do with this movie, which was they fucked with Superman, and that was Luthor and
Right.
them was so they were getting Superman to act all fucking crazy, so it was they could have gone that route,
Yeah.
and done something more psychological, and
pushing Superman to look like the villain to people and play at that
Yes.
angle where people don't know if he's a hero or not.
wow, they did it really terribly.
Yeah, they did.
So just do what Justice League did.
Yeah, they just never won me over on why they should be fighting,
Yeah.
personally. But
All right, sequels to Man of Steel.
I'll go.
Okay.
So I actually was thinking about this quite a bit before I even saw the movie. Now that I've seen the movie, it kind of strengthens my idea. But here's how I would have done it. I would have had Superman kind of put the cape away after Man of Steel, right? It caused a lot of destruction. There's a lot of confusion about whether he's a good guy or a bad guy. They got to rebuild. Let's say he takes a hiatus, kind of refocus, right? Maybe he's dwelling on killing Zod.
Well, I like your idea about the destruction. Him dealing with it.
Right.
He helped level a city.
So
I mean, they even said thousands of people died.
Right. So borrowing elements from this movie, what's his name? The guy in the wheelchair.
I don't even remember what his name
Okay.
was.
So in the
Scoot McNairy's is the actor.
Yeah.
It was Willis, or because he's
Yeah.
your
Wally
friends
or
call him
Wally.
Wally.
I was like,
Wally.
is this supposed to be Wally West?
Yeah.
When he said his name was Wally.
so you have a character, you have a character that gets his legs amputated from the fallout, right?
Right.
And in this movie, of course, Lex gets a hold of him, turns him into a bomb. I think it would have been much better, instead of doing the Doomsday thing, is if
Sorry, I'm going to totally derail you here. Did that guy know he was a bomb, or did...
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Yeah, the expression on his face, he was surprised. Yeah.
Okay.
So what I would have liked to have seen, I think this would have been a much more interesting movie, is if Lex Luthor gets a hold of this guy. And by the way, my Lex Luthor would not have been an insane idiot. He would have been a much stronger personality type. But if through the body of Zod, the technology from the ship, instead of creating Doomsday, I would have liked to have them to created Cyborg Superman.
Yeah.
Then you could have had
That could have been great.
Cyborg Superman flying around and kind of doing justice,
Yeah.
but getting a little bit more and more mean and evil about it.
Yeah.
And that catches Batman's attention. And we'll say that Batman doesn't know that Superman stepped aside. Like, all of a sudden, here's this Superman, and come to find out it's Cyborg Superman. And Batman's like, well, I've got to stop this. He's turning into what I was afraid that he might turn into. That's your battle.
Yeah.
And then at some point, we bring in the real Superman.
Right.
And Batman and Superman
Team up to take down.
team up to take out.
That would have been much better. And you set up Cyborg Superman from the
Exactly.
beginning of the movie, not in the last act,
Right,
just
right.
out of nowhere.
But the other thing too is
establish it early.
with if you did it right, like so like the scene where they're setting up Cyborg, right? Maybe we could have borrowed that technology, and that creating Cyborg Superman could have been a setup to how they do
So they can meet Cyborg.
Cyborg.
Yeah. You meet everybody or more organically.
Right. So you're setting up, and the thing is because Doomsday. I mean, I'm assuming you guys all read The Death of Superman.
Yeah.
Like how massive that was, right? So you have these years and years of Superman, and then
underpants.
Superman dies.
Right.
Well, we're in the cinematic universe, and they kill Superman in the second fucking movie.
Right.
That's stupid, and it's a waste of Doomsday.
Yeah.
Right? So instead of wasting Doomsday, let's introduce a new type of character that has a reason to hate Superman, which it's not the character that Cyborg Superman was.
No, but
it still would work. 'Cause this
it's
guy
the
still has-
spirit. It's the spirit of the character.
Right. So yeah, that would be
No,
that
that would have been great. I would watch that movie.
It would have been just better in a lot of ways too if like they just hit the ground running with things,
Yep.
not like Lex Luthor's like, hey, I want access to all these things. And like maybe at the start of the movie, he has access to them. He's
Right.
already doing all this stuff. Let's just get going with this.
Yeah, there's a lot of filler at the beginning of that movie.
Yeah, there's.
And imagine too the fight between Cyborg Superman and Batman and Superman, as it starts out, Cyborg Superman looks totally flesh and blood.
And then he gets damaged.
And then he becomes, and then he starts utilizing not only the Kryptonian powers that he has,
Right.
but he also starts utilizing his tech.
Yeah. No, that's great.
Yeah.
What's yours,
I
Jake?
think we should edit mine before Robert's because Robert's was so good.
We will pretend that Jake said that.
Yeah. So there we go.
Good job, Jake. That was
Yeah,
a
thank you.
fantastic
Thank
It was
idea.
excellent.
No, I don't
really
have
like that movie.
much. I don't know exactly what I would have wanted this to be, but I know there was a lot of things I would have done differently. And we kind of like I didn't want to see anything with Zog and how he was doing all that stuff with that old ship. You know what I mean? I know that's
Yeah.
how we got the monster, but that's why I like Robert's idea a lot because
Right.
I didn't care about it. And like you said, they brought it in like at kind of the 11th hour. Oh, by the way, I'm going to have all the knowledge of, Krypton because I've got fingerprints that I cut off the guy.
That was pretty easy to hack into that ship to make a monster.
But can I backtrack
Go ahead.
just a little bit?
Mine is
I'm sorry. I
done.
don't.
Yeah.
But see, now my mind's spinning. But the thing too is, by the way, while all this story is going on, Superman or Clark Kent is trying to establish who he is and
As
why,
Clark Kent.
and why, why
Yeah.
he would want to.
Right.
And he's kind of watching this from working at the Daily Planet and stuff like that, and we're getting to know these other characters. But at the same time, because we're doing that, we still have Superman. Like in the beginning, Cyborg Superman looks, acts, and feels and smells just
and
like
Clark
Superman.
would be okay with that. And he'd be
Yeah.
like, somebody's doing good. Maybe I'm not needed and I can live my life. No, that'd be great. I think a problem with, too, I would have spent some more time in the movie, was they jumped to him and Lois being deeply in love too quickly.
Yeah.
After 18 months.
Right, but the problem is we don't get to see any of that. And it's a movie. I get they love each other. You don't need to say anything more than that. But it could have been more interesting, I think, to have shown them falling in love than just being, we're here already. And I get, theoretically it happens organically over 18 months, but we as the audience don't get to participate in any of the interesting stuff that could have happened there. We're just given at the end. Okay, last segment. We're going to wrap this up then. So the movie exists. This is the movie we have. What is your sequel to Batman v Superman? How would you correct course from here? And let's talk about it, because as Robert was saying, let's not say Justice League. Let's say a Superman 3, an actual Man of Steel 3.
I've got two.
Okay.
The first one is Lois Lane losing her security deposit from flooding the bathroom.
That's a plot point as opposed to
No, that's a
it's
movie.
an entire movie.
She has to go file paperwork. She's got... It's harrowing.
Lois Lane v. Landlord.
And my second one is Ash versus Superman versus Batman.
That's going to be all of the sequels from here on out. It's just Ash fights everybody. No, I like it. All right. I'll go next. My Man of Steel 3, because we're going to bring him back from the dead. Honestly, I would take some of your ideas, Robert. I think they would be smart. Maybe the next time we see Man of Steel is take some of the plot points from The Return of Superman, the comics. Have somebody kind of take his place, a cyborg or something. Some people take his place while he's kind of recuperating, and then things go wrong, and then he has to don the cape again. I think that's where they'd be smart. I think take some from the comics. Even though Return of Superman's kind of weird comic, there's some interesting stuff that you could do. Like I said, I think honestly, you kind of stole some of. I would probably do a lot of that stuff in my sequel to this.
Robert's idea was just so good.
It was good. That's that's a movie I'd watch.
The only thing we're missing is red underpants.
Yeah, but he wears red underpants when he comes back. Boom, solves all my problems.
Blockbuster.
So that's my next movie. That's how I would do a sequel.
I don't. Yeah, the only thing about that is that they've hinted quite heavily that the next bad guy is going to be, and I guess maybe is that for the
Justice
JLA
League
movie?
Yeah, that's for Justice League, I believe.
So
The Dark Side. There's a big
Dark
Omega
Side.
symbol in one of the dream sequences, and his parademons that fly.
Right.
Which that's another one of those things of people that you're assuming your audience knows what those are. Well, I guess not to say you don't need to know, but it would be really weird if you had no idea what that was.
I
That was
still
also
have
extremely
no idea.
weird.
Yeah. Anyways. So yeah, but I'm not saying you can't do Darkseid and Superman, but it sounds like Darkseid's the villain for Justice League.
I would, and I haven't spent much time, I don't think about this, but if I had to come up with a sequel, and probably would not go over well, because my Superman 3 would be a much smaller movie, and it would do what this movie didn't do, which is explore Superman. It would focus on Superman as a character, and so we've all talked about this before. The thing that I love Superman. He's my favorite DC guy.
Yeah.
And the reason he's my favorite DC guy
Red
is
underpants.
because the red underpants, exactly. That's shut up. All of the other superheroes in the DC world, or in any comic book series, they're all people trying to be more than they are.
Yep.
Superman is the opposite of that. Superman is more. He's trying to be less. He's trying to be human. Like the one character that he's most related to from like a story point of view, as far as I'm concerned, is Data from Star Trek. What does Data want more than anything else in the world? He wants to be human. Superman's a lot like that, right? Yeah. So I would spend some time exploring that, because what Superman, and I talked about this earlier, what Man of Steel should have done is established that this man with great power come from humble parentage. I mean, his Earth parents, Mom and Pa Kent, were humble, good, decent, God-fearing people who thought that their job in this world was to help each other, help their fellow man, to spread love. That's who they were at their core. And we didn't get that in that movie. What we got instead was Superman heard really loud noises and people laughed at him.
Yep.
And he was an emo kid. That's what we got.
Yep.
And so I would spend a third Superman movie backtracking a little bit, establishing, and I suppose it could work, with however we decide we resurrect him.
Right.
That in Return of Superman, he spent some time walking in heaven with Pa Kent.
Yeah.
Maybe we could do something similar along those lines. We've already established that he has talks with Pa Kent up on the mountain top.
Yep.
Right. So, yeah, mine would be a much smaller movie. I don't even know what kind of bad guy I'd have. Maybe I'd bring Kevin Spacey back. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe him and his dad, build something out of those rocks. On the mountaintop.
They divert another river to the neighbor's farm.
They flood Lex's.
Maybe just throwing shit out there. Maybe Superman 3 doesn't have to take place on Earth at all. Maybe Brainiac.
I was going to say Brainiac.
Did I steal it from you?
Goddamn.
God damn it. Maybe Brainiac snatches him up, because that's what he does. And
That could be great.
maybe
Brainiac
Brainiac brings him back.
Yeah.
And then his sequel is all about, it would be half dream sequences, half back in time, and then half him trying to figure out how to get away from Brainiac.
Yeah. Well, and I think in my sequel, a point you bring up that I would like to delve into in the next one is how Superman's death affects people. That's why I like the character of Steel from the comic books. Basically, he becomes a superhero because of Superman. He's inspired by Superman. Superman's gone. He builds a suit of armor, and the reason why he takes the S for a symbol is he's not trying to pretend he is Superman. He's trying to pay homage to, to an important character. And I'd like part of the movie to be spent. Honestly, I'd be cool in my sequel that we would not see Superman for a third of the movie before we establish anything. It's dealing with the other characters around Superman. So, okay, Matt was going to say Brainiac.
Well, I know we all want to see more Jesse Eisenberg, so here's
That's a lie.
I think he goes crazy in jail, and he has like multiple personalities, and one of them is the Joker.
It's the most logical conclusion.
God damn it, Matt! You're getting back to Batman. This is a Superman sequel.
Well, I like Batman, so or
Apparently, so did Zack Snyder.
Yep.
or a documentary about like a Nuremberg style trial over the making of this movie. And I'm joking, of course.
And
This
that's our-
movie
and
is
that's our
not
mock
this
sequel,
movie
ladies and
is
gentlemen.
not tantamount to the not trial of the Nazis. I'm just joking.
Don't freak out, internet.
I don't think that was nearly as bad as him saying that it was good that the Click and Clack brothers were dead. I think
That was not good.
Well, not only the one.
We're not doing good. Our Army of Darkness podcast, we insulted everybody,
I
and now,
know.
oh god,
We're gonna have so many apologies.
Everybody
If
hates us.
people start listening to us, man, we're gonna have to spend a
bad.
whole podcast just talking about the stuff that we're sorry we said.
All right. Well, I think we're to the end here. So the last little bits is make sure if you like what you hear, subscribe. We're on YouTube. We're on SoundCloud. Check us out. Hopefully in the near future we'll be on iTunes as well.
And we really want to know what your sequel would be.
Yes, please in the comments. Any of these ways you can watch it from our website, from YouTube, from SoundCloud. We would love to hear your thoughts on the podcast, but we'd love to two things. Let us know if there is a sequel you would like us to talk about in the future, and then also give us what is your sequel. We've talked about ours. Let us know yours. If it's great, we'll talk about it on another podcast. So, I think with that, keep checking back. We've got a whole besides MySequel. If you enjoy it, we have a bunch of videos on our website. We have our other podcast, the Sprocket Docket, is going. So we got a lot of stuff. So check it out. And thank you for listening. Good night.